Hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us, episode 245 for September 20th, 2017. My name is Russell Frost. I am your host this evening, and look at that rogues gallery of panelists that we have with you, with me, with us, for us, whatever, that you're going to have to deal with tonight because they are here. And I think the guy with the Pac-Man shirt is angry. He's got some... Yeah, there's like that thing. I noticed he's also refocused his camera at a different angle than it was earlier this evening. And I'm wondering, well, maybe I'll drop that bomb on him later. Anyway, let's get this show going. My wingman on this show, he is the most reflective human in North America, and my best friend in Chicago, Mr. Tony Schaefer.
I think you mean reflecting. I'm anything but reflective.
I know, you're kind of reflective. You have a high albedo.
Yes. Not to be confused with libido. They're different. I
know nothing about.
I've found out.
I don't know.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to everybody. So that's my shout out.
Yay!
Like literally everybody. So I've now officially stepped on everybody's shout out.
See, I've had this discussion. So when in the song it says when everybody was kung fu fighting, was really everybody kung fu fighting, or was it just
literally
everybody?
Yes.
Everyone was kung fu fighting. Holy shit, that's amazing.
At the same time.
I was.
How does that happen? I don't even know. I'm sorry.
Punch in the face. You got to go back.
Mark's like, I'm off this show. I'm done.
Yeah.
Wait, your prime minister was wearing what today?
Chewbacca socks.
Thank you, Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Welcome, everybody. I have no Chewbacca socks, nor R2-D2 or C-3PO socks like my hip prime minister. But what can you do?
I'm sure you're wearing them now and just won't show us.
It's that Canadian humility.
Yeah.
No lie. Well, speaking of humility, I said he had an angry shirt on before and a redirected camera, and he does. He is our man in Portland, Mr. Patrick Connor.
Hello from Oregon, where the rainy season has now started, and it's going to be doing this until July 5th.
Is that your prediction?
Yeah. No, it's a tradition.
I see. Oh, that's just history. It literally will rain. Nice. Well, hey, you know, that helps put down the brush fires.
Yeah, it's more than a brush fire, and so yeah, I'm glad the rain is here for that reason. That is
absolutely.
I was really hoping some of the super hurricanes would put out the other half of the country.
Yeah, we got half the country flooded and the other half on fire, but you know, there's no climate change, and we had nothing to do with it.
And I read on Facebook that there's lots of seismic rumblings around the Yellowstone supervolcano. So, hey, all of this could be over very, very soon.
Problem solved.
Problem solved. Mark Coughlin has just killed himself. Well, before we lose him completely, let's introduce the founder of Boulder Hybrids in Boulder, Colorado. Strangely enough, his name is Mr. Paul Guzik.
Hey guys and gals out there in internet land, glad to be back. And my beer sponsor this week is from the Bristol Brewing Company, and it's cool because it has a VW bus on it. So
nice, very nice.
Actually, yeah, so good for them.
Is the beer any good?
It's okay. It's an ale. I'm not a big ale fan.
Yeah.
Does the beer taste like you took a Subaru motor and shoved it into a...
Yeah. It tastes like leaky oil.
Yeah. It smells like burning oil.
Yeah. And it only goes 20 miles an hour up the mountain passes.
There's an endorsement for the beer company.
Right. Well, we just lost that sponsor.
That's the last time they sponsor us. But,
well, we've been down this road before. We'll start off with a feature that Patrick Connor calls Russell's Rant. It's not really a rant, though. I mean,
come on. You can make it one. I'm sure you can. I have faith in you.
I know. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that. I just got done spending a week with the all-new 2018 Toyota Camry Hybrid. And
let's go places.
I'm sorry?
Let's go places.
That's their tagline, right?
Speaking, so I'm just hung up on these taglines. Like, let's go places. How about just let's, like, really, like what? Let's go something else?
Why is it crazy?
Places.
They wanted to make sure it's not "Let's Go Crazy."
Yeah, because then Prince would be all over their ass, but he's dead, and his estate would sue him. I don't know. I'm sorry. These things bug me. And I wanted to talk a little bit about my week with this car, and I want to ask first: have any of you seen the commercials for the the all new 2018 Toyota Camry Hybrid?
Oh, what's the song? Isn't that the?
I'm guessing it's not one by Prince.
No, but it's the like all excited and hip, and we're doing something. We're going fast, and baby, we were born to run.
I don't think it was.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't born to run. But
well, hey, but there's a great commercial right there.
Roll the commercial, Russell.
Yeah, there's a commercial. So anyway, I guess the reason I bring it up is this is something that Toyota's kind of tried to do for a number of years now. Which is let's be realistic here. Does anybody's mom here not drive a Camry?
My grandpa did.
Mark says no. Mom, my mom's had. Yeah, the Camry is number one of the best-selling sedans in North America for the last 500 or 600 years,
especially the grandpas.
And it's everybody's mom's car. You know what I mean? Like somebody says, "Hey, I got a Camry." They're like, "Hey, let's go for a ride." You know what I mean? Because it's like to do what? It's a Camry, which just means it's like bulletproof and reliable and comfortable. It doesn't, So Toyota's really working this new all exciting thing, and there's people with like their hair standing out on end, and they're going fast around corners, and there's blurry camera shots of it. And I guess I'm kind of confused. You know what I mean? Like, I get not your father's Buick. I get that. And we all remember how well that worked.
Yeah. Buicks are everywhere now, right?
Yeah, they're everywhere. Everybody thinks Buicks are cool. Here's the thing. When you spend decades building a brand like Camry and having enormous success with it, when you try to shift it and broaden that appeal to say, okay, it's not just your mom's car, it's your exciting, hey, 20-something, 30-something person, it's your exciting car. It makes me wonder, like, is it, I don't know, I guess the only thing that, it's the old saying, when you're number one, the only place you can go is down.
Right.
Is that just like, okay, we need everybody to own a Camry? I guess. I don't know. But let's talk about the car. And here's why I say this, because the Camry is an interesting combination of super comfortable, very large. This is the biggest Camry I've ever driven. And I've driven most of them since 2007. This thing's big. It's plush. It's comfy. It's quiet, which is nice. But when you step on the gas, it goes, there's a little rumble there. There's just a little bit of a sports car thing. When you're in sport mode, the car kind of stands up and goes a little bit, which is just weird to me because it's a Camry, and that's not why I get that car. Like, I want the Camry to it's the car that you want to drive across the United States. It's darn comfortable. It's got all the latest stuff in it, the dynamic cruise and all of the safety features that are in all the Toyota vehicles now. But it's beautifully done. And by the way, the other fun thing about this new Camry, mine came in, I forgot the color. It was like red fusion pearl red black. It's this beautiful metal flake red color that I've never seen before. And again, metal flake red on a Camry, even my mom thought it was beautiful. My mom's 78. So anyway, a great car. I really enjoyed driving it. And that's my rant. I'm confused by the commercials. I'm a little confused by the car, but you know what? All in all, I get why it's the number one selling sedan, because it's a car.
So it'll be really confusing when they come out with the TRD version of the Camry.
At least that's branding it a little bit differently. I totally agree with you, though. That is like the next step, right? Like big old tires on the thing.
Get the ground effects all the way around. Yeah.
Interior roll cage, just to confuse grandma. What's the bar for?
Isn't the Camry because Paul got me thinking, isn't the Camry one of the races, a NASCAR or
That's a plastic shell over a car.
yeah, I know, but it's basically
They're a sponsor or something.
yeah, they're a sponsor. I mean, but I know it's a plastic shell, but it's made to look like a Camry. I know, but
Those cars have
it's completely stock. Completely.
yeah, right.
Yeah, it's got the 2.4 liter 4-cylinder under the hood.
That's right. Yep.
I think they just put a bigger carb on it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was like in the 70s, and people still do it.
they just chip it. Yeah.
Hey, well, there's nothing wrong with going after a new market.
No, nothing. No, nothing. But do you understand my confusion, or do you think?
Yeah.
I just don't see any 20 or 30-year-olds buying a Camry. Period.
I think their tagline should be more like, "If you don't like it now, you will in 40 years."
Yeah, it's so reliable. It will be cool when you're old.
I like that. I like that. Buy it now, drive it when you're of age.
Buy it now for grandma.
The last car you
puts it in
need to
her will
buy
for you.
because you'll grow into it over the next 40 years.
Absolutely. As always, I want to encourage all of you watching or listening to please go to youtube.com/whatdrivesus. That review will be up in the next week, maybe a little more, along with a bunch of other new reviews, including the Mazda Miata Grand Touring, and some other fun stuff I've been driving lately. So do go there, subscribe so that you get an update when we upload new videos, or just check it out. That's youtube.com/whatdrivesus. And you guys, any more questions on the Camry?
I was just thinking
What
of
was your MPGs?
Yeah, what?
So you want you want the range, or do you want an
No, like average. I mean, I hear it's pretty high 30s.
But now wait a minute. What exactly were the specs on the car?
Yeah, how big's the battery pack?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I would have to go back and look.
But it was the Camry Hybrid Sport. What?
This is the
Limited.
Camry SE Hybrid.
Okay.
The SE, not the XLE, the SE. So, and normally when they do these things for press, you get like the top of the line one,
Which is the XLE, right?
Right, the XLE.
Right.
The SE goes pretty well decked out. The SE, however, is the sport version. So
right.
kind of, I think,
Okay.
what's going on with that.
Yeah. So did you track your mileage?
Strangely enough, I just don't care.
Oh, okay.
No, just kidding. Yeah. So drive like crap. In sport mode, not all the time, but sometimes, race up and down, basically like most Americans drive. Am I allowed to say that? Or am I going to get 42 mpg.
Wow.
There goes another country.
Yeah, those Americans are done with us. And then, so
That's pretty darn good for a big ass sedan.
for a big boat, which is what this thing feels like. In normal mode, just not hypermiling in any way, but just being reasonable, I easily got 50. I got 54 on one trip, but I think the low 40s would be what most people would get, which for that vehicle, I mean,
That's impressive.
yeah,
Yeah.
with all the horsepower that it has and all the features, absolutely.
And the Corinthian leather.
No, sir. Toyota does not use leather. They use Softex. It is a non-animal product because it is more.
I don't know. I heard the Softex are like disappearing from Africa now. So.
Yeah. Well, it's like the nugget, right?
They're actually, I read an article, and I wasn't going to bring this up, but Toyota is actually clearing the rainforest so they could graze their Softex just for the inside of their cars. Yeah.
Softex is the outer skin of a tofu beast, right?
The tofurkey. Yes. And there's a lot of energy consumption that goes into defeathering and preparing the tofurkey for the Softex leather. Yeah.
I got nothing.
Russell, you said it's a big boat. Like, are you saying that as it handles like?
No. In fact, here's the sort of the strange dichotomy of the car is that it actually handles really nicely. It feels tight, and when you're steering in curves and stuff, it stays in the curves. It drives better than any Camry I've ever driven. I don't know what they did to the suspension. And again, this is, and forgive me for this, but if you don't go to like the big press junket and get the whole technicals presentation, you have to like figure this stuff out for yourself. So forgive me, but I would guess they made some suspension changes. The steering feels pretty tight. I mean, it's all drive-by-wire. You know, it's like Prius, but you know, it feels good. It doesn't feel like you're steering a Love boat by any means. But the car's big. I mean, yeah. That's all.
How many bodies can you fit in the trunk?
Again, you know, oddly enough, historically, Camry hybrids had smaller trunks because of the battery pack. Toyota has completely addressed that issue. The trunk has a pass-through to the back seats, and the trunk's big. I could probably stack 3 or 4 corpses in the trunk.
Okay.
Safely. I mean, smaller.
Safely.
Safely for me.
Safely. I'm stacking corpses safely.
You don't want to pull your back out, you know, you're stacking corpses.
Thank you, Pat. Where I was going there. So that's all I got. You know, thanks to Toyota for letting me drive the all-new Camry last week. They just took it away this morning. I shed a little tear. It's fine now. And yeah, that's all I got on that. Which I guess brings us to our next thing. And I'm going to go on. I'm going to make this like a 30-second topic here. But there are 2 things in Greek car reports this week that kind of jumped out at me that I wanted to call bullshit on. One was and the article isn't bullshit. John Volker wrote the article entitled, quote, 2017 VW e-Golf lease can cost more than longer range Chevy Bolt. Let me follow this up with Green Car reports from the day before that. Quote, Honda CRV Hybrid displayed in Frankfurt. U.S. likely, but when? Question mark. Okay, number one, Volkswagen isn't serious about these things. They don't give a shit if you lease it or not, or they would be competitive with it. They're a big enough company to offer a competitive lease. They don't care. They don't care. Second, no, Honda will never bring the CRV Hybrid to the United States. That would be a good decision, and Honda has not made regarding hybrids or alt-fuel vehicles since the development of the original Insight.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I saw a Honda Clarity EV last weekend, and I was like, oh, cool, an electric plug-in car from Honda. And then it's sitting between a Leaf and a Bolt. It costs more than the Leaf, and it has less range. It costs about the same as the Bolt EV. So why would you buy something that has 80 or 90 miles of range when you can buy something that has 230 miles of range for the same price? It made no sense. If you're worried about cost, you buy the Leaf. If you want range, you buy the Bolt. And if you are really crazy about Honda, and I can't figure out why you would even consider the Clarity EV.
No argument.
Okay.
No argument.
They're not going to sell many.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
And I think the companies that are serious about selling EVs are making EVs that are saleable. Nissan, Chevy, Tesla.
But you honestly think not a CRV hybrid?
Do I honestly? Yeah, they never brought what was it, the Fit hybrid or the Fit EV? The Fit EV, which was
it was lease only. They didn't sell any of it. It was lease only.
Right, but it was tiny and EV and short range. I look at the CRV as Honda's attempt to compete with the RAV4. Now, granted, I expect that they'll have the same amount of success as they did with the second-gen Insight, but I expect them to at least try.
I like Honda vehicles. I think Honda makes some good cars. Honda also makes some very bad, some poorly thought out cars.
I may.
Exactly.
Right. Honda makes good cars, but horrible hybrids. What's wrong? How does that happen?
They make good cars and horrible hybrids since the first generation Insight, which really only counted for a couple of years because then Prius kind of slapped it around.
Yep.
They just make bad decisions when it comes to all cars. I don't know why, but they do.
It's not their core competency.
Yeah.
Well, but they keep going back to it. It's like time and time again, the IMA approach has shown to be inferior, even to the Honda Civic hybrids, that had failing batteries so bad they had to do a mass recall on those, but they keep dipping in that well.
And the worst CVT ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, well, not as long as Hyundai's in business. Oh,
Oh,
say that?
mic drop. Yes. But like I said, I expect them to at least try. I mean, why would they not?
You know, it's got to be something like Toyota owned all the patents and said, if you try anything close to us, we're going to kick your ass in court.
Well, no, I understand. I mean, they wouldn't bring the HSD, the Toyotas, but I just mean bring the CRV Hybrid to even try to compete in that crossover hybrid market. That's all I'm saying. I'm just kind of surprised that you're so, convinced that they're not even going to bring it to the United States.
I would love to.
Right after the Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid.
We're going to get to that a little later in the show. But I mean, again, I would love to be wrong. They historically make horrible decisions with their old cars.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I have no problem. Part of the fun of going on a limb is being wrong sometimes.
Be a futurist. It doesn't matter if you're wrong. No one cares.
Just pay me for my opinion. Well, let's move on to something more fun. I think someone was going to talk about a Proterra Electric Bus.
Yes, indeed. Proterra has unveiled a new bus that goes a record 1,100 miles on a single charge.
Wow.
That is unbelievable. Well, they're going after records, and they put a 660.
There's no room for passengers.
Right.
Batteries.
It's literally just batteries.
It is a bus for batteries.
It's a battery bus.
Exactly. But this bus will go over 1,000 miles. It's got a 660 kilowatt battery. I don't know where the LG supplied them the battery. It's massive. And we're just going to take a look at this quick little 1-minute video here.
Wasn't that like the Fit EV? Didn't that have like a 600 kilowatt hour?
Yeah. Just drop a few zeros.
Somebody got a drone for Christmas.
Yeah. So I saw this, and it made me wonder what their average speed was.
Oh.
Buses don't tend to go over 25.
It wasn't a land speed record, Tony. That's for sure.
Yeah, right.
That's a closed course.
Yes, it is a closed course.
Record.
It's a proving ground.
I saw.
And it did say in the article that they don't actually expect 1,100 miles in real world, stop and go and all of that, but it was just again proving how far they could go on.
Well, that's because they have to. Real world, they have to put people on the bus, so they have to free up the seats for people.
Yeah.
You're not going to see an EPA rating of 1,000 miles, but still, this is like they said, to show what's possible.
Right. I mean, unless you're talking about long distance bus, any kind of city bus doesn't need 1,000 miles.
No.
Okay.
Or even airport buses that just shuttle people to the car rental places.
Now, it would be cool, actually, there was a long range bus. I mean, kind of reviving the whole Greyhound concept.
Yeah, like a Greyhound type thing. Right. This is a 40-foot city bus, and it's they have been pushing its limit of range now for the past couple of years. So they just keep upping it, and this is their latest success. Is this 1,100 miles?
So I did some quick math, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but if it's 1,100 miles and they average 25 miles per hour, so 1,100 divided by 25 is 44 hours of driving.
So they had nothing but drivers on the bus.
They just tied the steering wheel on.
They just kept swapping out drivers as 8-hour shifts would go by. Yes.
It was just Wayne on coke and ho-ho.
Amphetamines.
I mean Coca-Cola, by the way, just for the record.
That's right.
Before anybody calls their attorneys and things get ugly.
But kudos to the company as they push this technology forward, and hopefully they are selling buses to municipalities now. You can see Proterra buses in different municipalities. But let's hope that the technology continues along and they start to sell a lot of buses into the city centers.
Absolutely. Lots of them. Yeah, no, I love this idea.
Yeah, so Los Angeles said they're buying 95 buses earlier this year. So yeah, it'll be cool to see those rolling out. And then Sacramento is ordering some buses for their airport shuttles.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that makes such perfect sense.
Yay! I don't even know if I want to do the next story. I know it sounds weird, but I kind of feel like I'm picking on people sometimes. I'll just
before we jump that one, I'm going to guess that when that bus gets an EPA rating, it's going to be closer to 300 miles range instead of 1,000, and that's okay. That's just,
that's very okay.
Is there any way to find out what the average city bus drives in a day?
Good question.
58 miles.
Oh, I am sure that is readily available.
Yeah, but it's going to obviously depends on the place too. Buses in San Francisco probably drive a lot less than buses in Los Angeles. That's more spread out. You know what I mean? Like even though so it really location dependent. But that's an interesting point.
Yeah, charged overnight.
Yep. Okay, I didn't mean to drag us back. Go ahead, Russell.
No, not at all, Patrick. It's okay. I mean, I think that was cool to know, and absolutely. Look, I just wanted to, and I hate to do this. Forgive me. It bugs me that, of course, Mary Barra is a female, and I'm a male, and I'm telling her to shut up. But shut up.
To be fair, you would tell anybody who said this, shut up. It's not about her gender.
It's the CEO of GM and whining about China with a gas car ban sometime in the future that, it's probably a little more nebulous than we'd like to think. But you know what? Enough. Just stop.
All right. So wait, who is she and what did she say before you?
So Mary Barra is the CEO.
Are you going to throw up a picture of Mary Barra?
Did you say we were going to throw her up?
Can you present a picture?
Yeah, you might want to present something else.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. There we go. Mike, you're so cute.
So were we.
And no, I wasn't looking. This camera off center is weird. Let's go here. Here she is.
Now let's go places.
Right.
Russell's got his own tagline now. Let's go here.
Now I have to spend $5.
I'm already here, so let's go here. And I'm going to get great mileage doing that.
And it's going to be exciting. Look at my hair. So there she is. General Motors Chief Executive Officer Mary Barra said that China's gas car ban is it's just stupid, and that buyers should decide. And by buyers, she means manufacturers, because buyers can only choose the options they're offered. And some companies don't choose to offer everything. So I just
scroll down and look at that smog.
So
we talked about it on this show after I got back from Beijing. I was coughing for a week. It was horrible. So if the Chinese government wants to make a decision to improve their air quality, who is any American, especially one from a car company, to tell them, no, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that, you're wrong?
I don't know how she's. I get that it hurts her business, but I don't. Again, they're trying to protect their country and their people, and I think I'm going to stand with China on this one.
Well, and you know what, GM, like you got some experience building EVs. Why don't you just get more cars and get better at it, and you can own that market?
Yeah, she kind of comes at China here as though GM has never done business in China.
Yeah.
China is one of those countries that says, hey, by the way, here's what we're going to do.
Right.
And there's no negotiation. There's nothing. You either do what they want or you get out and you sell your product somewhere else. That's it.
Yeah, China's not known as the free market. country.
Yeah.
No, but she's obviously stating what GM would like. Obviously, that's what she's after. It's money. It's what they can sell readily. It's what they make the most profit at. All those things rolled into that statement.
And that works in the United States when you can buy the politicians making the laws, but in China, that just doesn't. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't make GM look good. It makes GM look greedy, selfish, not caring about the environment, not caring for the sovereignty of another country. I don't know. I mean, bad on so many levels.
Yeah. Let's turn this on its head and say that GM CEO Barra launches an initiative to help China reach their goal by pledging 2 new factories or something.
This is one of those things where CEOs are held to a different standard than the rest of us. The rest of us, somebody would look at us and go, why don't you be positive? Why don't you, you know what I mean? Like, why don't you say something? And why shouldn't Mary Barra come out and go, this is an amazing opportunity for GM to sell its class leading alt cars in China. And we're excited about that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Even if behind the scenes they're working to try to overturn it, still her public face should be way more positive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But instead, you get a petulant.
You don't shout the expletives until after you've hung up the phone.
Consumers, she said, and I quote, choosing the technology that meets their needs. This is what consumers should do. Right. Okay.
Wait. When it says their needs, was that a slip? Did it mean our needs? Yeah. Consumers should be available to choose the propulsion method that meets our needs.
It's the most profitable for us. That's what they should select.
Yes.
The bigger the truck, the better.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And that picture of smoky Beijing is what the entire world would look like if most automotive CEOs got to choose what you buy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure all the emission standards that they were forced to put in,
exactly.
That would have just reduced their profits to have catalytic converters and California emission standards. I'm sure they fought every one of those laws.
And they still do. And they still galling about this. It's consumer choice. You know what? There's no choice. The only time seat belts, safety things that weren't mandatory until the government stepped in and said, you're going to do this.
Yep.
Whether you want to or not. The car companies are by no means historically in a good leadership position to say, look what all the great things that we've done.
Yeah. And it really undermines when they're selling plug-in cars and then they say things like this, it undermines their credibility in that market. Instead of saying, hey, we have cars that can meet those requirements and we're going to be there and they're going to be great, they're saying, no, don't do that. It really makes a pure play like Tesla look a lot better, because why would I want to spend, if I want to buy a fuel-efficient car, why would I give it to a company that's fighting to stop those from being normal?
Right. I was just thinking, you mentioned Tesla, and I was thinking that, Elon's reading these headlines and like, thank you.
Yep.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to see that. Even obviously, I own a Volt and have owned 2, and they're fantastic cars. But you do look at what is the rest of the company doing, and how are they presenting themselves. And you're right. This is kind of a black eye for GM. It's not shedding any good light on the positive work they have done in plugins, and it's unfortunate.
Yep.
So I want to share a share a article here. I want to show you something. Let me do a screen share, if I may, here, of something that it didn't take me very long to find. You just have to read that headline. And this is from June 22nd in Electrek. Tesla reportedly signed a deal to build a gigafactory to produce electric cars in China. Yeah.
That's leadership.
That is 100% leadership.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about leadership. Interestingly enough, Germany recently crossed the 2% threshold for plug-ins, hybrids, and electric vehicles. Or excuse me, they're very near the 2% threshold, which is huge. America just got to the 1% one. 2%, again, these numbers seem tiny, but they're bigger than they've ever been, and it's something to celebrate.
Is that because VW can't sell diesels anymore? They got to sell something.
Oh yeah, the diesel backlash has definitely been a part of boosting plug-in car sales in all of Europe.
Germany's overall fairly aggressive solar deployment
Absolutely
probably has boosted that. BMW's been fairly aggressive with their electric cars. I don't know the situation, but in total by any means. But I'm willing to say, hey, that's good. That's good. For the month of August, for instance, battery electric car sales were up 137%. Sales of plug-in hybrids were up 214%.
Yeah. So it might be, tens of thousands of cars now, but when you have that sort of growth, it becomes a lot of cars really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. You have that critical mass where it's no longer a weird niche-y thing where everybody starts talking about infrastructure and I know 10 people with this car. It's not a strange thing anymore.
Right.
And you're looking at those kind of numbers, and clearly it's not a niche. Now you're looking at you're reaching that point where people are trading in their cars. They're getting to the point that their current car is getting old and whatever, and they got to trade it in, and they've got to buy something. And clearly, a large percentage of those people are choosing these vehicles, and that's awesome.
Yep, I can't wait to. So, if you look at the technology adoption curve, there's this part of it called the chasm, and I think it's around 13%. And that's a lot of technology never gets past that chasm. And certainly hybrids never did. They were never more than 2 or 3% of global sales. So plug-in cars have absolutely got to cross the chasm.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, when you think about problems and you think about advanced tech cars, there's one company that in my head kind of floats to the top. That company might be a company called Mitsubishi. Electrek announced this week that Mitsubishi has announced. They posted an image, and you know what? I'm not going to post the image because it's stupid. It's ridiculous.
Oh, I was going to show that. Yeah, just to show how stupid it was.
Okay, go ahead, Tony. That's fine.
Oh God, I just closed it.
Tony's
okay.
Whatever.
All right.
Who cares? Mitsubishi says it's going to make an electric evolution car. Is there anything that I have less faith in than a Mitsubishi alt car coming to the United States? Winning the lottery, I have less faith in that.
Dakota
coming back.
Faraday Future's coming back.
I wanted the Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid. That's what I wanted as my next car, and it looked great. It had 30 or 40 miles electric, and then it got 40 or 50 miles per gallon
and had
gas
ground
after
clearance
that.
for going to the mountains. And
Yeah. So I mean, it looked as a great thing to replace our SUV, and the
only hiccup was you had to move to Europe.
Exactly. Yeah. It was supposed to come to the U.S. in 2013, and then it got pushed to 2014, and then it got pushed to 2015, and I eventually ended up buying a Tesla Model X because I got tired of waiting for it.
Yeah. Free beer tomorrow.
Yeah, all that time gave me enough to save up for the Tesla. So,
thank you, Mitsubishi, for helping Patrick buy his first Tesla.
Yeah.
It's a shame because there's no reason Mitsubishi couldn't come in and sell the Outlander, or even the the i-MiEV was not the worst car on the planet.
But keep in mind, is the reason the Outlander didn't come here because they knew they would not be able to bring it in any type of numbers that would satisfy anybody? And if that is the case, Is it not?
Then you hire a
is it not
production manager and figure out how to build them? If
they knew they were constrained and they knew they couldn't do it, is it all right for them not to come because
then
they
you figure out how to do it?
Yeah, that's a good problem.
Look at Elon's built a gigafactory to make batteries. I mean,
I think Mark's trying to bring up a really reasonable point of business strategy, which is if you can't sell a product in sufficient numbers in a certain location, do you just keep that product out or do you dribble? And is that where you're coming from, Mark?
Because everyone would be calling it a compliance vehicle if they only sent a few in.
Right. But if they're truly able to make a profit selling that car, figure out how to build another factory to crank them out.
Maybe they're not making a profit.
Well, that might be it.
Right. Well, and I suppose if we do want to think this through, would they have to gear up their dealer infrastructure to support a product that they're only selling a couple thousand of?
You know what, Mitsubishi...
But their dealers are probably clamoring for something to sell that the public wants.
Please, in the name of God, give Mitsubishi dealers something to sell, okay? Because why does anyone go to...
Because they got a bunch of turds in the lot right now.
Yeah.
Right now, for the last 20 years. Yeah. What does anybody... I mean, the Eclipse was popular in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What has been... The Lancer is popular with a very small subset of, like, people who like the little sedans. What else?
Yeah, it was the Evo.
Oh, the iMEV.
Yeah.
The 200 of those that they sold.
Yeah. I don't...
They need something more than a rendering. That's all we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Concept cars are not exciting.
Well, when you're Mitsubishi, they're not. If you're somebody who's produced vehicles...
If you're Tesla, they are.
Yeah. I mean, I want to see Tesla's rendering of their truck. You know, I want to see that, whatever it is.
But you're confident they will make it.
Right. So when Tesla does those, it's not as a concept car. It's as, here's our production next product, and we're going to evolve it and then sell it. Not, we put something at the Frankfurt Auto Show, and it may or may not ever happen.
Yeah, like the VW e-bus. I mean, I've been hearing about that for 6-7 years now, and maybe it will show
every
up.
Time.
I mean, it's like this bus, it's about as real as that.
Yeah. Tesla unveils their concepts by parking it at a supercharger and covering it with a tarp. Please don't look under the tarp.
Take that, unboxing videos. There you go. Well, our final story tonight. No, excuse me, not our final story. Our next to final story. I'm going to go to Patrick.
Okay, yeah. So last week on the show, we teased the me being on conservative talk radio, and I said I would tell this story. So for anybody who has been waiting all week to hear this story,
settle in, children.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. I mean, I could go on for a lot longer than I will. That doesn't mean it'll be anyway. Okay, so I wrote a story on my blog. It was 5 reasons conservatives should support electric vehicles that are not the environment. And I firmly do believe that whether you vote red or blue or green, that electric cars are a really good thing. And so I wrote that late last year. And then we were setting up to do our National Drive Electric Week event. And one of the guys coordinating it said, we should appeal to conservatives. And we should get a spot on a local conservative talk radio. And because those are people that haven't had a lot of exposure to electric vehicles. And I was like, that sounds great. Go ahead and do that. So he contacts them. Little did I know when I said that sounds great that he was volunteering me to go on this show. So they get it all set up, and then he says, okay, so they read that blog post. They think it's great. There's a couple points they want to discuss. And so coming on here, I talk all the time, and I thought, oh, this would be no problem. It was very different. It was a little bit less receptive. Yes, let's just put it that way.
I'll bet. Just a little bit.
So one of the things, I have my reasons. I want people to drive plug-in cars. Your reasons for doing it don't have to be my reasons. And I'm fine with that. there's it was this whole writing that post. Whenever someone tries to be persuasive, they usually use arguments that would persuade them. And it's really hard to get out of that. We all have that sort of perceptional blind spot that we think, oh, that's convincing. And so that's how I will convince people. So I was trying to come at it from the conservative viewpoint of these cars are fueled by American-made fuel. And that means that that money stays in your local economy. And that's good for our national security. And especially since I'm a veteran, I was in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and when you see a wall of sand and lightning engulfing a flaming tower of oil, that might change your perspective on some things. And so I was trying to stick to the patriotic, simple message, and thinking that would play there. And actually, so I did go on the show. It started out really well. I made my 3 points of they're patriotically fueled. That's good for the economy. And EVs are just really fun. Regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on, they're torquey.
Did you say it's fun like shooting guns off?
That fun on a bun. That would have been, yeah.
Bun? Did you just say that?
So, right off the bat, Lars, the host, says, "Oh, yes, if you're plugging in the local electric grid, that is great. That's making local jobs. But I also want all those greenies to know that you're burning coal. These cars are coal powered." And he's right. There is some coal power on the grid here, depending on what utility you're on. It can be up to 30%. And I decided that's not a hill I want to die on. If people want to buy an electric car because they want to support coal jobs, okay, go for it. Because that is still very efficient use of that energy. Electric cars that are running off our grid, the Union of Concerned Scientists have a report that shows that that's more efficient than a hybrid car, especially here in the Northwest where we have a lot of hydro. So great. I didn't want to argue the point because if I come off, if I turn it into a climate debate, I suddenly have no credibility. So. Right. I didn't even want to go there, and so then we go to commercial break, and they asked if I could stay over for another segment, which is cool. I was like, yeah, that sounds good, and take some calls. So I was only scheduled to be on for one segment. Yeah. So I took a couple calls. The first guy said, "Oh, that's never going to work for me because I have to drive from Grants Pass to Portland, and that's just never going to fly." And well, luckily, I've made 3 trips to Grants Pass in the year that I've had my car. So I was able to share that experience, how I can make one 25-minute stop in Eugene, and that's enough to get me to Grants Pass. After driving for 150 miles, a 20-minute stretch of the legs is a nice little break to have anyway. So it works out really well. And if long-distance drives are important to you and you don't have the infrastructure, then you can get a plug-in hybrid. Then it's electric local and long distance, you can drive on gas. So that went well. Next caller, that guy was on my side, and he was going at Lars for some things that he had said. So I was like, hey, this is great. Then they asked me to stay over for a third segment.
Oh, you should have known. You should have taken your chips and left the table.
I should have. Yeah, so
the house always wins.
Yeah, the third segment is where it went downhill. So he started harping on the incentives, and so there's a $7,500 federal incentive from the U.S. government, and he said, "Why should the government be handing out taxpayer money so rich guys can buy electric cars?" And I made a couple points. I said, well, first of all, the $7,500 incentive that we have today is not a check from the government. It is a tax credit where you get to keep up to $7,500 of your own money if you had that much tax liability. And he argued with me. He said, no, you're thinking it's a deduction. You don't understand how taxes work. And I looked it up later. It is a tax credit. There are 2 types of tax credits. There are refundable and non-refundable tax credits. This is a non-refundable tax credit with no carryover, meaning it works exactly like I said, and he was wrong. And then I started making the point that this is good for our country. That's why this incentive was put in place. He started harping on Obama, and again, not a hill I wanted to die on. I should have said at that point that this incentive was put in place by George W. Bush, but I didn't. I didn't want to argue about point fingers. That's not. I wanted to make the point that this incentive is the right thing, regardless of who put it in place. It was there when the car manufacturing needed support, and it put jobs in place. Now it's helping to encourage the sale of electric vehicles. Those sales have a benefit for all of us. It gives us locally fueled, less military involvement in the Middle East. We're not borrowing money so that we can buy gas and send the cash to the Middle East. And he just would not let the incentives things go. And at one point I said, he talked about how slow electric vehicle sales have been to ramp. And we just talked about how they're, about 1% last year and growing. And he was then just doing a linear projection saying it's going to take 100 years. No, wait, maybe 50 before they're even a significant amount of sales. And I said, you're assuming linear growth. That's not how this is going to go. Especially things like incentives help get these kick-started. That gets us to economies of scale. That brings down price. The estimates now that are for any car company selling cars in 2022, it will be more profitable for them to sell an electric car than a gas car, if you look at the technology curve and the growth of the battery technology. And certainly for manufacturers that are investing heavily in their own production and vertical integration, it's going to be much sooner than that these are more profitable than making gas cars. And
on the car sale, but not on the service department.
This is true. Yep. That point was not brought up.
Yeah.
And
other hybrids.
Yeah, there'll still be plenty of work for you. Yep. Everyone should go see Paul Guzik if you have any car trouble at all.
Well, just sorry to interrupt.
No,
Funny
go ahead.
story. Lady Leaf owner calls me today. 27,000 miles on her Leaf. She took it to the dealer. They said she needs to change all her brake fluid in her car. She called me for a second. I said, lady, all they're trying to do is change the money in your wallet. You
Yeah.
absolutely do not need to flush your brake fluid at 27,000. They just couldn't think of something to sell you, so they started inventing stuff that you might need to buy.
Wow, that's sad.
Yeah.
I know. God.
Anyway,
Awesome.
sorry.
So Patrick, did they let you out at least with your clothes? How did it end?
Yeah, so it finally ended where he was going on about how he has a friend who's a multimillionaire, and he bought a Tesla just as a third car to show off. And of course, he's taking the tax credit for that, and that's ridiculous. And I was like, I don't even know how to respond to that. I've made my point. I think we're done here, Lars. And that was the end of it for me. I was kind of getting flustered at the end. He's a professional debater. He does this 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. He's really good at it. And a couple times, so since he's throwing these questions at me, he's always got me on the defensive, and he's able to direct it. Mm-hmm. And I should have just stuck to my message of these are the right cars for our country. They're the right cars for all of us economically. And there was one time where I kind of did that sort of politician. He throws me a question where it's very pointed in this narrow case, and I gave a more generic answer of how the positive spin was, and he's like, oh, you're not answering my question. And anyway, yeah, so it was a good learning experience. I made a lot of mistakes. I'm not a professional speaker. I stammer and stutter and ah way too much, and I let him direct the conversation way too much. So it was a learning.
Told him about the incentives a few years ago for like forget what it was, over 6,000 or 8,000 pound cars got a big tax break from the government. So the taxpayers are basically buying corporations Escalades and Hummers.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
small
Tony's
businesses.
ranted about that one multiple times on this show.
Yeah, and it was okay to buy Escalades with the taxpayers' money, but not green.
Yeah, in fact, he was talking about how oil companies get tax breaks when they drill on federal lands, but that's just a cost of business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he just glossed right over it. And I didn't want to fight with him on his show. I'm never going to win. The audience is there because they like him for the most part. Mm-hmm. And so I was trying to – I have a friend Tim, who's a conservative, who likes the Lars Larsen show, he thinks Teslas are cool. So the whole time I'm thinking, okay, he's the guy I'm trying to talk to. Someone who likes Lars and likes Teslas, right? And if I'm
and maybe you change the mind of like 10 people or something.
See, exactly. That's a great message, and I think you are spot on with that. You weren't arguing with Lars, and I think it actually would have been funny, like towards the end, if you would have said, Lars, I didn't come on this show for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if a smartass comment like that endears me to the audience or not, but it would have been fun.
Yeah, it would have been fun. But you know what? I think it's a good point, because if you did, like Paul said, if 10, 12, 20 people, and probably more, heard what you had to say and said, you know what, there was 1 or 2, maybe 3 really good points there.
Yeah.
This is worth looking into, and maybe you planted that seed. I say, kudos, man. Great job for having the balls to do it.
Thanks. Yeah. So public speaking, before I came on this show, I would have been scared to death to do even this, and it took me quite a while. I talked about this on one of the anniversary shows. Russell invited me, and it was 30 episodes later before I came on. So this is a skill, and it takes practice, and I had some practice where things didn't go as good as I had hoped.
It's hard. That environment, as you said several times, that environment is crafted.
Right. To just piss you off.
You cannot win. You cannot make points. Yeah. You're not going to make your arguments. You're not going to look cool. So the best you can do is come on and say what you're going to say and, pull the ripcord.
Right. Yep. I shouldn't have done 3 segments. 2 segments would have been plenty.
Well, I mean,
but part of it was I was there to plug the National Drive Electric Week event, and they were supposed to prompt that from me, and they didn't, and then they didn't, and so the third one I just started with that, and then they knew that was going to be my last one, I think, and that's when they ripped
they unloaded on you.
Yeah.
They aimed the gun at your head.
Yeah.
He got the free plug. Now we're going to execute him on the air.
Nice. Well, I have a very short news thing because we're a little over on time this week, and then we're going to close out the show and say goodnight. I just wanted to mention, because we've talked about it several times on this show. Let's see here. I'm going to screen share this bad boy. Look, all of a sudden, Tesla's talking about turning those supercharging stations they're building, the first one of which is in Kettleman, California, into adding restaurants and convenience stores and all kinds of things. Where did you hear that idea? Oh, 5 years ago. Maybe.
So I hope they do this, but I mean, they've promised the solar panels at superchargers for a long time, and they're not there yet. And I'm okay with.
Right? They're at a couple.
Maybe. Okay.
Once they get the self-driving cars, those can turn into bars, and you can get hammered and then get back into take me home.
So I hope they do it, but the important thing is that they roll out more superchargers, especially with their starting the sale of the Model 3, and they want to start making 10,000 a week, 500,000 cars a year. Whether or not it has a 7-Eleven or a Taco Time there, I don't care. Just have the superchargers. So I think they have I hope this isn't too big of a distraction.
What the hell's a Taco Time?
I don't distraction. No.
Yeah. It's a local Taco Bell, but better.
Is way better than Taco Bell.
Okay. All right.
It's in like the Northwest.
It's Taco Time.
Yeah.
Taco Time, yeah.
There you go. Well, there it is.
Not diarrhea time. Like, sorry.
You had to illustrate that thought, didn't you?
But I'm sure it's no porque no.
Yeah. Well, that's all I got. Right on, Tesla. Let's do some shout outs to go home. Let's start with Paul Guzik.
My shout out today is the Toyota dealers of New Jersey and Connecticut. In the last week, I've had 3 customers buy Prius Primes from New Jersey and Connecticut dealers, and they've saved about $3,500 off of a full list price. And meanwhile, the Colorado dealers aren't selling Prius Primes, so there you go.
There you go.
Yeah. So if you want to buy a Prime, go to New Jersey or Connecticut. It's one reason you want to go there.
That's
You still get the Colorado incentive if you.
Yes,
buy
it's based on where you live, not where you buy the car.
Wow, cool.
Man.
So we did the math. A Prius Prime Plus, like the basic one, ends up being half price if you're a Colorado resident and you buy it in Connecticut.
it's crazy.
Half price.
Totally.
Wow.
Wow.
There must be a flood of people doing that.
They're in stock. Like I had a guy came in last Friday. He called a dealer in New Jersey. He called me up and said, yeah, my car's arriving tomorrow. And I said, what do you mean, right? He says, I did the deal over the internet. They shipped it out. I get it tomorrow. Like less than a week. So, and in Colorado, you walk into there and say, oh, we might get one in by the end of the year, and you got to get on the list, and it's going to be full price or higher. So go figure. So.
Yeah, and in Illinois, they have no idea how to handle money, so there are absolutely no incentives in the state of Illinois.
Well, they just hand it off to the politicians.
Right, because the state's broke.
Pat.
I am with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find them at oeva.org. And I'll shout out to them for throwing me to the wolves with the Thanks, Gary.
Nice job being wolf-bait, Patrick. Mr. Schaefer.
I want to remind everyone that if you want to keep up with what we're keeping up with, make sure and follow us online. So just so you remember, we do have our Facebook page at facebook.com/whatdrivesus. Oh my God, that's me. You can leave comments, suggest news items. Make sure you like the page if you stop by. And if you do use Flipboard, I want to remind you, we do have a What Drives Us magazine. I also want to give a shout out to Smart Toyota, where I bought my Prime. If you're in the Northern Illinois, Southern Wisconsin area, check out Smart Toyota. They know their hybrids, so give them a shout out. And a couple more shout outs real quick to JT and Lee, who are in the chat room right now, and to our new Nebraska followers.
Thank you. Nicely done, Tony. Mr. Coughlin.
With the Waterloo Region EV Association and Waterloo Region Voltec, and just wanted to give a shout out to all the people that came out to our National Drive Electric Week in Kitchener last weekend on Saturday.
It'd be international because you're in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with that. But we had a fantastic time. We had about 400 different people that were out, and about 25 cars on display, and it was our most successful event to this point. So we look forward to doing it again next year.
Very cool.
Excellent.
Continental Drive Electric Week.
There you go.
Intercontinental Electric centered in Kitchener. And there's a Chesterfield somewhere involved.
Somewhere.
You know there is.
If someone's eating some poutine.
I'm still waiting for my goddamn Chesterfield. That's all I'm going to say.
It's still sitting in the parking lot at Temperaments.
Yes. There'll be no peace with Canada until I get my Chesterfield.
That's a
I just
Wookiee
want to call
talks.
the dark Toonie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the glow in the dark Toonies. Yeah, thanks for hiding those.
There's the Toonie. It's just not glow in the dark. Sorry, guys.
You still haven't even got one for yourself?
Nope, it's not. Can't get it. It's just not in circulation. Anything that goes out, people are just snatching them up.
Hang on, is Mitsubishi in charge of distribution?
That's the problem.
The Toonies are available in Europe, just not in
I'm sorry, I have to write down the show title. Distributing glow in the dark Toonies. Yeah. Okay. There we go. As always, I want to thank Michael Manring for our amazing theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. Buy his music on iTunes, CD Baby, Amazon, wherever. He deserves it. So thank you, Michael, for letting us use that. Visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/whatdrivesus. Visit us on Twitter at twitter.com/whatdrivesus. And you know what's coming next? Subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/whatdrivesus. You get notified every time we broadcast and all the new videos we're putting up and our exciting car reviews. Well, I think they're exciting because I'm in them.
You were driving them.
Yeah. If you want to see me drive, we got videos. Thanks to all of you guys for showing up, being a great panel this week. Thank you so much.
Now, is some of your video of you driving, is that actually dash cam video from the officer behind you?
Of him beating me about my face. I'm not going to, you know what? You have to go to youtube.com/whatdrivesus to find out.
Oh.
How's that?
Yeah, nice clickbait.
Thank you. And thanks to all of you. That's you out there listening and or watching. We do the show for you. So thanks so much. We'll be back next week. Tune in next week and find out what drives us. See ya.